Everybody, I just, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here with us and staying with us through the afternoon. We're going to try to make this as exciting as possible. Music licensing can be exciting. And the reason why this is exciting is that this is where the money is made. So think about it that way. This is about how we're going to make money in the music industry. So with that said, I'm going to ask Alex, Charlie, Irfaan, please come on up. Yeah. I just kind of like stand and stuff, All right, so we've got a lot to cover, guys, in what is it now, about 28 minutes that we've got for the panel? Okay, so why don't we begin from the beginning? Let's get from everybody a 15 to 30-second introduction of yourselves, who you are, and what you do, and what your role is at where you are. So, Alex, you're first. We'll share.
Yeah, let's do that. Hi, I'm Alex Moore, Chief Business Officer at Empire. Empire is the largest independent record label in the U.S. by market share. Empire was founded 15 years ago and launched the careers of artists including Kendrick Lamar, Cardi B, XXXTentacion, and the Free Nationals. Today, Empire has over 300 artists signed to the label side, 3,000 on the distribution side, and we're the label responsible for Shabuzi, who you may or may not have heard of. His song, A Bar Song Tipsy, has been #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for a record-breaking 10 weeks now. And I'm Chief Business Officer. I lead all of our business and revenue functions, including partnerships, sync licensing, commerce, events, and M&A and investing.
Thank you. All right, I'm just going to project because this mic isn't working. All right, so next up, Charlie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lexton. I'm the COO of Merlin. Merlin is a rights licensing agency for recorded music rights for independent record labels and distributors. We represent the biggest basket of rights in the independent sector, number 3 or 4 on most digital services. My responsibilities in Merlin are for the commercial side of the business and also we have a data analytics function.
All right. My name is Irfaan Premji. I am the CEO of Blurb.fm. We're the small startup amongst the giants here. And we use machine learning and computer vision to scale content creation. The objective being to extend the reach of music and extract more value from IP. We're the IP multiplier, I think is
Excellent.
what Mark called
Yes, that's what I saw you guys as the IP multiplier, which is, for people who hold licenses for the licensors of the world, it's something that we need. And just to round it off, I have an educational platform called Sync Summit. You can look it up on the web. Talks about sync, talks about licensing. I also work as a music supervisor in advertising. I've won a Clio for that, so I do it okay. And the other thing I do is I represent and work with a lot of labels and publishers from across East Asia and the rest of the world, helping them to find opportunities to license their music and to bring their artists out to the world. So with that said, that rounds out the introductions. Now, let's just get right into it. From a general point of view, how is this world of music licensing evolving? And talk about this from your perspectives. Because, there's a lot that's going on, and we're going to try to cover that as much as possible, but based on your own experience day to day. And I'll start with you, Charlie. Based on what you see with Merlin as an organization and also with your membership, what are some of the trends that you're seeing and some of the important points in music licensing, for better or worse?
Okay, so I think that if I think about today, sometimes I think my starting point is, say, 5 years ago. And I think if you asked me 5 years ago, what would our organization be dealing with day to day, I'm pretty sure I get it definitely wrong. Because I think we sort of thought that once we sort of got to grips and established streaming models, we could sort of sit back and relax for like the next 10 years. Turns out that's not the case. So in terms of the issues that we're looking at now, even in streaming, people would have read about there's all sorts of discussions and ideas and changes to the payment model for streaming, for subscription streaming. That raises lots of questions, challenges. Challenges for us on the analysis side to work out what does it mean, does it make a difference? And of course, the other big thing that's emerged over that period is short form videos. So, obviously TikTok, but also now YouTube Shorts, Reels, Snap has their own sort of music offering. And I'd say the challenge, or at least what we're working on a lot at the moment, is how do we establish sort of frameworks for royalty models for those services that effectively reflect the value that's being generated into what ends up getting paid into artists' hands. And that's a big challenge, and not one that we've won yet. Aside from that, in licensing, there's all sorts of new players, I'd say, in the space, and they may not be players in good faith. There's lots of illegitimate activity. The streaming services don't now just have what maybe we would have thought of music, what we would have thought of as music 5 years ago. So there's lots of what people call functional content, which validly, I don't know what sort of sounds to help your baby go to sleep. It's valid that a user may want to use that as a service. There's questions from music companies about what does that mean? Should my royalties be calculated with reference to a competition with something that's not music? So big questions there. I'm sure we're going to get onto it, but obviously AI is a massive issue, and also AI is not just one thing. So yeah, we've got a sort of a full menu of issues to deal with.
Yeah, and it gives me pause when you're talking in particular about assigning a legitimate value, a real value to the usage of music in different points of exploitation in social media, because we're really not we really haven't figured out what that model is yet, have we? I mean, there's a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's two sides to that conversation. Obviously, there's the platforms. And there's us, and I think it's fair to say those conversations are at different stages in terms of working out what the value is, and people take different positions on how they want to see it. There's definitely parallels to, when especially YouTube was launched.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic in the sense that, that was a relationship with difficult beginnings, which is now a really good relationship with really, really effective monetization. So I'm positive there, but also aware that you can't expect the past to sort of exactly repeat itself.
Of course. So we're still in a position of evolution in terms of the thinking and what the actual solutions are going to be. All right, so I'm going to go from talking about this from the higher level, from an organizational perspective, to a particular company. So Alex, if you're looking at the way that things are evolving from your perspective, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in terms of licensing and in terms of just in general, the kinds of deals you're working on, how it's affecting your artists and how it's affecting the bottom line of the company?
Yeah, I mean, as Charlie touched on, I think part of the challenge with music and licensing as it relates to it, specifically with some of the short form and social platforms, is allowing people to understand the value that music creates to drive engagement. And absent music, most of the content that's created actually is not as compelling. And we have our partner meetings regularly with the Metas and YouTubes and Snapchats of the world, and we receive this feedback, but there is not a direct correlation, for example, between a certain amount of engagement and an artist participating in, say, advertising revenue. And maybe that's a future model. But for me, it's making sure that our artists, who we refer to as creators, are actually being seen as valued in the market and are being compensated as such. So I'd say outside of the DSP licensing deals that we do, from a sync licensing perspective, we're really focused on, as a whole, helping our artists monetize. And so sync licensing is a way that we're able to do that. Sync licensing is placing music and TV, film, video games, and commercials. And we've really bolstered our efforts and allowed our artists and their music to touch not just TV and film, but gaming and other emerging platforms as well. And for us, it's really important to put our artists in a position where, again, they're seen as creators, not just artists that create music. And in that sense, we're really leaning into net new revenue opportunities for them. So I can use a couple specific examples with one of our artists, for example, and this campaign has not been announced, but we're looking at placing music in a commercial, but also having that artist appear. And for that artist appearance, we've gone back to this company and said, this is very much akin to name, image, likeness, where you need to compensate this person for their name appearing in the commercial and for them appearing in the commercial. And looking at video games, for example, we're driving net new content discovery for our artists and breaking songs in platforms. So in the case of 2K25, for example, season 2 will be the Empire season, and we're launching 2 new songs as part of that. And our artists are really leaning all the way into that and scanning themselves. We're getting them scanned into the game, we're getting their characters played, and we're having the 2K team meet us with marketing assets as such, so that these artists are put on a platform where then they're able to, and we're able to help them connect with brands and, again, continue to monetize down the value chain.
Excellent. So Alex, basically what we're looking at in terms of the evolution of deals is sync is going to act as a fulcrum for other areas of potential connection, potential licensing opportunities, like you said, name and likeness, integration into content. I would assume that sometimes experiential marketing comes into that.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So these are ways that you can further create and maximize revenue on an artist by artist basis, not just say, okay, we're going to license this for being used in a show, we're going to license this for being used in an ad, but there are more opportunities to integrate the potential of that artist to promote, to tell stories.
That's right. And also for us to be advocate for the creators and artists that we work with, right? And so if there is an opportunity for them to appear, for example, another instance we're working on is for this artist to appear in a TV show, that artist has an interest in doing that, then we're able to unlock another monetization stream for them, right? And again, it's important for us to continue to remain open-minded and forward-thinking about how to best position our artists and drive as many revenue streams as possible for them, given, you know, sort of the other structural contingencies of the music industry.
Excellent. Okay, so Irfaan, what you all do is you enable more people to connect through your technology with artists and artist content and IP in general. Why don't you tell us how what you do can help us in terms of taking this content that we have and working with us as licensors and owners of IP to help us to find new opportunities for promotion and monetization.
Certainly. Sorry, I'm just thinking about how regretful I am for wearing sunglasses in my promo shot. That was a bad
Come
idea.
on, let's come back to the battle.
Look, the opportunity to leverage new emerging technologies is more money. And I think we can all agree that that's a wonderful idea. And, you know, my friend Harmon at Downtown Music, he puts it very nicely. He said, attention is currency, because it leads to streams and events and ticket sales and syncs and all of that. So how do you capture more attention? Well, we heard it this morning, right, from the folks at Believe. They were saying we should be leveraging AI to extend the reach of our music, and the single most impactful thing we can do is use it to create more content, to create content faster, to create content for short form platforms at the cadence that they demand, to create content that aligns with the underlying music more closely than what we can produce right now. And the state of technology currently is that we are in the throes of democratizing access to scalable, human-like decision making. And just imagine, what could you do with 1,000 of yourself, right? With a single voice. We were talking about likeness and voice and things like that. I mean, with a single voice, you could be doing radio promos around the world in every language for every city in every country overnight. You can talk to anyone regardless of what platform they're on. You can respond to events happening around your music anywhere on the internet, and you can create more touch points than you ever could before. And this is an experiential truth that I'm sharing with you, because that's exactly what we're doing at Blurb. We're leveraging the new technologies to create more monetization opportunities for IP, and these opportunities create outsized value, and that's the objective of everyone in this room. I think, whether you're the rights owner,
Okay.
or
So-
you're the licensee.
Okay, I think that's great. Thank you, Irfaan. So then my question is, let's get into talking about technology. Let's get into it for a few minutes. Okay, so we all know what the promise of technology is. How do you see it from your perspectives in terms of the integration of technology and what you perceive as rights owners and as the head of a rights organization, what the sort of potential is, but at the same time, what some of the challenges are in exploiting this on behalf of your members and on behalf of your company's clients and artists. So I'll let either one of you take that.
Yeah, sure. It's a big question. Look, my starting point on this is, it's relatively easy to list out, the variety of threats posed by,
Of course.
talking about AI.
Yeah.
Whether that's, just straight competition on tracks and the difficulties in, if we make music available to train models, how do you attribute the contribution and the outputs? Should there be copyright? All of those questions. But actually, my starting point is different. My starting point is, this is happening.
Yeah.
So, we're not stopping it. So we need to engage with it. And we need to work out how best to engage with it. Similarly, there's all sorts of questions about rights and, where you need to involve the artist, where you don't, where you should, maybe, in terms of, you might think you have all the rights you need, but you have a relationship with your artist. You need to, all of that is totally valid. But we also, I think, as an industry, need to be aware that there's a group over here whose position is they don't need anybody's permission and they're just going ahead. So, I think we have to take a very realistic and proactive approach. Of course, doing what we think is best and both sort of protecting and growing our businesses. But, doing nothing's not an option. And also, it's happening really fast.
I mean, we have been down this road before to a degree, and when I look at things that are happening where the RIAA in the United States is suing Suno and Udio, is that going to change anything? I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, just like technology always does.
Yeah.
The question is, what do we do as rights holders to make sure that we're protected?
Yeah, well, I think there's sort of two sides of that. I think what they're doing is right and they have to do it.
Yes, I agree.
At the same time, I think there has to be a commercial strategy running alongside it, because just saying you're not allowed to do that, that's not enough as a practical matter. we need to actually be doing, okay, don't do that without talking to us, but let's talk about doing this. We're open to doing this. I think that's really important.
There has to be a new paradigm in terms of the interaction between the AI music creation companies in the industry.
Yeah, and you're right that there's lots of lessons, and the most obvious recent one is streaming or Napster, whatever you want to call it. So I think the lessons from that are engage early, but also involve yourself in establishing what the outcome's going to be, because I think to a great extent the digital market has sort of been not imposed on the music industry, but I'm not convinced the extent to which it's been shaped by the music industry. And listen, it's turned out really well, but I think from the perspective of the industry, even better if you've actually got a say in how things turn out.
100%. Alex?
So I'd say that Empire is a San Francisco-based company, and we're a technology company first, and that's how our CEO built out the company. And so for us, it's really important to be at the forefront of the emerging technology and to engage with it rather than running away from it. And as rights holders, it's important for us to work with both the large players as well as the startups that are experimenting in the space, both for us to get smarter on what people are doing and to think about future implications as we protect our creators and protect ourselves as a label and publisher and distributor, but also so that we can learn, because outside of the licensing component, right, we leverage technology in multiple other parts of our business, whether it's using generative AI video companies to modify and edit music videos or what have you. And so for us, what's the most important thing at the end of the day is that our creators are protected, that we're coming up with the right mechanisms for people to be monetized for the content. And again, learning from both startups and large companies, and Empire has been at the forefront of that. So if I think about YouTube, for example, and the work they did with Dream Track, T-Pain, who is one of our artists, was one of the 10 artists that was selected as part of that. And so we're really leaning all the way in. And through each of these experiments and through each of these deals, we're gaining learnings and insights and bringing those back to the company and to our creators and thinking about, again, the best way that we can help them to monetize. The other thing that I would say is we also make sure that there are provisions in our deals, and Charlie, you touched on this briefly, to actually be able to claw back content as it's created through, whatever AI models, and that to the extent that the content that's created is in direct conflict or even moderately considered conflict by our artists, that we're protecting them and have the right provisions in place such that content or music that's trained on certain models that goes against them as a person or them as their ethos, we're able to take down. And so again, those are just future considerations. And I think as each month goes by, we'll get smarter on each of these opportunities and be able to refine our structure from there.
I love that, Alex. I love what you said in terms of the provisos that you have in the contracts, because we do have to start thinking about this. Like, how are these algorithms being trained, and how does that impact your artists and the industry in general? So, Irfaan, I'll let you take your point in this.
It's trailblazing like this that's going to set the stage for the regulation, right? That's going to come out and all the statutory protections that will be met with eventually. So this is how it plays out. I think it's the right way to go.
Absolutely, and I think that this is an issue that we're not going to solve here today on stage, but it's something that I feel
we still have 4 minutes left. So
well, there's 4 minutes left, but I'm going to do something unconventional here because we talked about it a little bit, and I'm going to take a moderator's prerogative. Does anybody have any questions? Let's take some questions. Let's talk to you. Does anybody have any questions? Or have we answered every question that exists in the global licensing marketplace? Because I don't think we have. I think we touched upon a few things, but if anybody has a question, raise your hand and I'll come and talk to you. Okay, come on, don't be shy. It's got to be something. Rob? Yeah, come on. I was going to be like, this guy is being uncharacteristically silent. Go on, Rob.
Uncharacteristically silent. It was been called. I'm Rob Schwartz. I used to represent Billboard in this region, but now I'm developing artists in Los Angeles. So my question is, I'm developing artists. They have new content, if you like that, new songs. What's the best way that I can get them licensed in sync? Open-ended question.
Not a 3-minute question, but talk to me after. Let's make it work.
Okay, if you want to ask a sync question, build your network, find partners that'll work with you, and make sure that you do your homework in terms of who you're reaching out to, and that you've got your shit straight, excuse my language, when it comes to your licenses, your ownership, and your metadata.
Yeah, the real answer is that. Plus, I'd be very proactive in the approach to sync licensing, right? So remember that sync is just any other business development function. So you have to be proactive in your meetings with agencies, with teams, with leagues, with content houses. And it's really important to be at the forefront so that you're not reacting. You're actually sharing music as it's actually being created. And that's how you get on the radar of, going back to the last panel, music supervisors, and building those close relationships is the connective tissue, and helping artists, again, monetize their content.
Yeah, there's no magic bullet when it comes to it. It's a lot of hard work. Oh,
But seriously, talk to me after.
okay, anyone else? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, then I have a question, since nobody's asking questions out here other than Rob. All right, so if you were to give everybody what you feel is your most important piece of advice in terms of navigating the way forward in our industry from your perspective, and let's all take like a 30-second or so take on this, what would that be? And I'll let you start off, Irfaan.
Sure. Be willing to experiment. I think Alex already said it. I mean, that is the way to see into the future as much as you possibly can.
Excellent. Charlie?
I'd say two things. Educate yourself, because you walk into a room, you don't really understand what the other people do, or at least understand what questions you should ask them about what they do. I think you've got problems. And secondly, try to step back from time to time and look at the big picture and what you're trying to achieve. In the long term, quick wins are not necessarily the best idea for the future.
I think that's a really good point. It's very important in our industry to zoom out and see what all the trends are. That's really good advice. Alex?
3 things. 1, understand the value that music has in creating culture and the connective tissue that it is, and treat it as such when you're going out and doing deals. 2nd is understanding the rights that you have and the rights that you don't have, and not getting yourself into a situation where you're doing deals for rights that you don't have. And then the 3rd is having a great lawyer. And I'm looking at our general counsel, Elliot, who keeps me from doing all sorts of wild deals and puts real guardrails in place so that we're looking out for our long-term best interests. And I do say that with a little bit of cheekiness, but I do think it's really important, because I've seen quite a few deals go by the wayside because the lawyers have not thought out all the provisions. So that's really key, especially as you're starting out in the business.
Alex, I couldn't agree with you more on that, especially that final point that you had. And the last thing that I'll say to everybody here is, don't be afraid of the evolution of the marketplace, whether it's technology, whether it's ways and means or practices. Ultimately, I want to be a Pollyanna about this, but I feel like ultimately technology and changes that we have in the marketplace eventually lead to better outcomes for everybody that works in it. So just keep yourself aware of what's going on. And I hope that we were able to illuminate some of what's going on for you during this panel. And for your knowledge and experience, I want to thank all of you for taking the time out with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.